I need 9 by 2. 9 by 2. That's what I need. I'm sorry, 8 by 2. Good word. So 8 up and 2 over. That's what I need. Anyway, my sister told me that the body was made of cells. So your sister's right. The body is made up of cells. Cells. So if you look at your skin and you zoom in, you can see the cells that make up your body. And they're all connected together. See this cell? The outside is called the cytoplasm. And the inside has organelles that do different duties. Same as the organs in your body, like your heart and your lungs. They do different duties. This is like the organelles in a cell. And there's different cells, and the middle has is the nucleus. Another type of cell doesn't have a nucleus. Typically, this is a bacteria. And cells can look different. For example, a bone cell looks like this. You can see right here. Blood cells have a different shape. Plant cells look like boxes. The body has around 75, a lot. All types of cells can reproduce asexually. Not that, stop that. Give me that. That's odd. Moby, what are you doing? Did you copy yourself? And shrink yourself down? There are a lot of bacteria in the world. You can't really see them there because they're so small, but they live everywhere. In your food, in your body. There's a fact that more bacteria are in your intestines than humans living today. If we didn't have bacteria, cows wouldn't be able to eat. Grass. But it also can make you sick. But don't worry. You can take medicine called an antibiotic, and then you'll feel fine again. They come in different sizes and shapes. Some are spiral. And they have a nucleus. They don't have any very complex organelles. And they make their energy themselves. And they also can make more bacteria themselves. And they can increase their numbers quite quickly, which is quite interesting how they also change and develop quickly as well. We can't live without bacteria. They started long, long ago. We don't know when it started, but it was a very, very, very long time ago. Life just had started and started progressing. And there was very little oxygen in the air. But bacteria increased the amount of oxygen. Which is how we live. Bacteria can live in dangerous areas. and in different various places. But I hope it's not the same as that. Look around. So they want us to describe the branches of government. Luckily we're here in Washington, D.C. where America's government started with 3 branches. the legislative, the judicial, and the executive. So the legislative branch is divided into two groups, and they make laws. The groups are named Congress. The Senate is one of the parts of it, and the House of Representatives is the other part. The Senate has 2 representatives per state, and the House of Representatives has representatives based on the population of the state. They offer bills for money, and the Senate is the group that accepts government officials. These two help and work together to make laws for all situations in the society. The executive branch, the president's the leader of the army. He has advisors called the cabinet. They advise on different things such as agriculture, education, and lots of different things. And then they advise the president, who's a very, very important person. But he can only have 2 terms, both 4 years. And that's the limit, so that's 8 years in total. The judicial, or it has the Supreme Court, and they rule over court cases and decide if laws are constitutional, if they fit into the Constitution. The Supreme Court discusses what the Constitution actually means for certain situations. So these 3 groups are all connected and equal through checks and balances. They have a limit. They're limited by each other. For example, the legislative gives the president the bills, and he can veto the bill and give it back to the legislative. But they can overturn him by voting a majority. Also through checks and balances, another example is the president's advising group must be accepted by the legislative branch, and the judicial judges must be accepted by the president and can be kicked out by the legislative branch, which is called impeachment. It can also impeach the president too. This is how the balance happens for each group to be equal to each other. Can a robot try to become president? I don't know. Not the Constitution. But I can't vote for you. I'm too young. Civil rights. So that means rights for all people. Doesn't matter about their gender or race. As said before, there was segregation between whites and blacks. They lived in different places, ate in different places. This happened in all society, schools and education as well. And then one event happened. So the first event happened so the next event happened with Rosa Parks, where Rosa Parks was on the bus, and before you were supposed to stand up if a white person came to sit down, but she refused to, so she was arrested. The next event that happened was with Martin Luther King. He planned to boycott, which means to not use the whole group would not use the thing. So they boycotted the bus and planned a march and protest for people sitting in restaurants peacefully. People got angry, even though it was a peaceful protest, which which we don't understand why the people got angry. And in 1963, there was a very big protest in Washington, D.C., where Martin Luther King gave his famous speech, I Have a Dream. Soon after, a law was made for integration. Um, this law helped change society, but it can't change people's opinions. But the protesters continued to support rights for all. A lot of other groups saw the civil rights and were inspired by them, such as and understood that rights should be for all. I have a dream. What's your dream? Interesting. It's an odd. Anyway, bye. be back. I have to go get my charger. Please say sorry. That's better. What does it mean by internet etiquette? Well, internet etiquette is like society etiquette, real life etiquette. Manners with emailing. Some people don't understand that. And they get into arguments over the internet. This is called flaming. Some people go searching for it. These people looking for flaming arguments are called trolls, and they hide behind their computer and technology. Must remember that it's another person behind the computer screen. And so you also need to make sure that you communicate clearly. In emails especially, it can be easy to misunderstand. Example of this is abbreviating words. That's fine with friends, but if it's a formal email, that's not okay. After you type all of your stuff, make sure that your letters are not in all caps because that appears to be yelling. You also need to read your emails again to make sure the grammar is clear and the messages and topic are made clear. Lastly, you need to make sure people are okay for you to share their information, pictures, anything like that on the internet because it's not private. Your boss can see it and you don't want to upload something like that. No. How about this one? No. This one. Do you understand people are watching us? Don't try and scare. I want your obsession with religion. I won't allow you to steal. Help. Good. Thank you. Shakespeare. He was a very popular and famous writer long ago. He was born in England, married, and then moved to London. In 1594, he became very popular for poetry and plays. About kings and history. I think that's boring, really? There are so many variations, so many different types. There's comedies, tragedies, they're not funny. And people love their plays. And very popular. A whole theater was built for him. And the rich people would sit and watch, and the poor people would stand around the stage and watch. The poor were called groundlings. And he wanted for both groups to enjoy his plays. The tragedies were sad and typically had a mistake that happened. For example, Hamlet can't kill his stepfather. Macbeth kills a bunch of people to become king. There are different groups of his plays. The first one's comedy. There are history stories, tragedy, and then tragedy and comedy mixed together. In 1667, but it didn't matter because he continued to be popular. In all different times. Now, let's go back to my lines. I need to practice. The play's happening in 2 weeks from now. So the Harlem Renaissance, the word Renaissance means a new birth. And that's what happened in a black community as they developed quickly in Harlem. Developed through their experiences as they moved after the Civil War was over. They moved up north to Chicago, New York, and a place called Harlem. They kept their cultural identity and discussed lots of cultural problems that had arisen. They wrote about this, and a popular book was called writer was called named W.E.B. Du Bois. He wrote about the black experience, their identity, and how they identify both as a African American and as American. That music began to develop, from their experience of isolation, from slave music, jazz started. From African stories, became new writers pulled from. Culture was expressed through poetry. It wasn't always about the arts. They also had the basketball, Harlem Globetrotters. They also had the civil rights movement start. My parents are discussing stocks. Okay, so stocks. So you give money to a company. I'm sorry, let's go it back. So a company or a corporation, which is a business, typically bigger businesses, some smaller businesses also have stock shares that people can buy for part of the business. So if they lose money, you lose money. If they gain money, you gain money. So, so the stock market is where stocks are bought. It's really needed to be studied, a company and how they've developed. Typically people that are rich start with smaller companies, and as they improve, they get larger and larger and larger. And their money will increase. You can also lose money too. So will you invest in my lemonade stand? No. You need to charge $10 for that cup. I wish people used more bikes and not cars. Okay, so my teacher was talking about the main point. Can you please explain that? So, in an article about cheetahs and how fast they run, the main topic is cheetahs. And the point so let's read an article about smoking. Smoking is dirty. It's bad for your health. You can get cancer and get sick. Your breathing becomes hard. It's harder to do activities. People around the smoker are also get sick. People understand that they can die every day. People die every day from smoking. So what's the topic? So the topic is smoking. So what's the main point? If you think about what the main point is, you can read it again. Look for words that are repeated over. Smoking's dirty? Okay. Not really. That's not really the point. Smoking is bad for your health. You can become sick as breathing becomes harder. Sometimes the main point is at the start of the paragraph. It can be in the middle. It just depends. It's not always clear. But if you read it again and again and again, you'll begin to understand the topic and the main point. So let's use another example. So, talking about the environment and how we need to use cars less and how cars usage is bad for the environment. So what's the topic of this paragraph? Pollution? Okay, that's great. So as car use goes down, pollution goes down. I imagine if someone asked me what the article was about and you could explain it, you probably know the point of the article. So can we ride our bikes out? But we've already home. Stop. No, that's not the point of the article. You need to understand before starting a bank. Really? Remember when we are teaching banks? You give money to a bank, and when the bank gives money to you, borrowing and there's a fee that you pay the bank annually. Okay, so I have $15. Let's see what would happen. How to start an account. Oh, no. So if you read the papers, the interest is annual, which means you calculate yearly. However, you can calculate monthly, weekly, or daily. It just depends. Mine's annually. Oh, I know. So if you calculate that, the interest you get $12. So I'd start with 100, and then I'll have $112. However, there are different other ways to calculate interest. You start with the principal, which is your first amount of money, and as you can see the chart right here with a 12% rate monthly. You don't pay 12% monthly. That's crazy. That would be too much. You divide that up into 1% each month. But let's make this clear, so hold on a second and I'll show you. So 1% times 100 is $1. So $101. So now we're finished with that. We're going to go on to another next month. So 101 times 1% equals $101.01. You do this again and again and again. You keep adding and adding and adding monthly. As you can see. So at the end, I get $112.67. You understand now? Simple versus compound interest? No, not really. If you can't calculate interest, do you really need to start a bank? Is that from my room?